Oh, what is up, everybody? So, I try to stay away from the mainstream stuff, but for those that don't know, I've interviewed John Fitch a couple times. We're in the works of trying to get our own weekly broadcast out there called Mixed Martial Mindset. And the topic today was kind of this Greta girl, and all the media attention there is to this little girl eyeballing Donald Trump and making him look like a bad man, right? Now, when I want to criticize Trump, I do. However, the idea that teenagers should be running our environmental policy is joke city, USA. And when the media is this strong about talking about something, you have to understand it's about so much more. And today, while I was in John Fitch's chat, if you don't know about it, go to official John Fitch. That's Jon. There is no H there. We're going to swap it out right here. So, Karma, get a little action. How we doing, everybody? Thumbs the video up, by the way. And we had a dieharder in there talking about carbon dioxide and climate change. And here's the thing, guys. You can see my videos on some of the data that is out there via Invisible Empire and Shade the Motion Picture. But what I'm not here to do is argue about whether or not carbon dioxide can contribute to warming the planet. Why? Because it's a moot point. Let's talk about what it's really about. It's about using carbon as a taxing mechanism for the serf class, you and me. Hate to tell you, chances are if you're watching this, you're part of that serf class. Hell, you might be a millionaire. And guess what? More than likely, your small business, well, it's going to be taxed. You're going to still be part of the serf class system. Well, you think that the Amazons of the world, do you think the large technopoly corporations like Google and those subsidiaries are ever going to pay any quote unquote carbon taxes? And if they ever did, which they will not, even more of that will go down to you and me. And the bottom line is when you're taxing something that is such a broad sense, right? Because we could talk about cars and airplanes and fossil fuels and the industry lobbying, et cetera, et cetera. I'm pro technology. In fact, one of the better things in that quote unquote Green New Deal is to get maglev train technology out there, is to revamp our highway system so it makes more sense. There's a lot out there, okay? I mean, it's ridiculous. But when you're taxing breathing, because I talk to you right now, and I'm breathing, and then I exhale, because that's part of the process. All these things around me, they're breathing too. They're breathing my carbon. And the deal is that when you have such a large thing, it's really about controlling land, controlling massive amount of people. And, Agenda 21 is a real thing. One of the things that I thought was so brilliant about the Hunger Games series, I never even finished them, but did watch the first couple, should finish them because they were pretty exciting. They spoke a lot to society. 30 thumbs up. Let's thumb them up, guys. 94 watching. Was the fact that you had this very, very advanced technological society where the few, the privileged, lived in that wonderment. And even though you had people of a similar look, right? It wasn't race-based, et cetera, et cetera. It was really economic-based. You had them living in basically feudalist squalor, and technology was denied to them, except for when the elites want to give it to you. And unfortunately, that is what this movement is about. It's about eugenics, and instead of a eugenics based on inferior races, it will now be on inferior lifestyles, okay? The fact that that was a teenage mother, she's already got one child out of wedlock. Maybe she should self-sterilize. Maybe we'll give her a government incentive to that. That's the reality of the situation. Karma, quit eating that grass. Quit eating that grass, Karma. And, when you talk about Bill Gates and control, he's about population control. Listen, the population is expanding, but not to a level where, again, we're in any kind of danger. That's false propaganda. I get it. More people doing more stuff causes more pollution. We can argue that, right? But who gets to decide who dies? And the real idea is that they've been talking about this since Roman and Greek times. In my film Shade the Motion Picture, Tarpley discusses this. Remember, in 1984, Prince Philip, who's still around, remember, royalty still exists in 2019. These people are largely deciding big geopolitical events and policy, right? Well, he says that the biggest problem in 1984 is human population, biggest detriment to the earth. And then in another interview, he gets asked about it. And while he's being asked about it, he says it again. And she asks, well, what propose we do? I don't know about that virus quote that's out there. It could be a hoax conspiracy theory. But the two videos that are out there, come on, Carmen, no, are dangerous enough, okay? And when Ted Turner says similar things, that we need a population of about 2 billion people, well, we're at 8. What's going on? 7 or 8 right now. How do we get down to 2 all of a sudden? That doesn't seem feasible, does it? No, it doesn't. And the bottom line is, I hear it all the time. Well, there's too many people. There's too many people. How many of you have driven across just this country and realize how much land that we have and how we could empower ourselves through technology? I remember the Zeitgeist series, and though I disagreed with a lot of it, one of the things that I really did agree with was the automation of building things, right? Homes, complexes, et cetera, through 3D printing. And then the idea that we would have farming systems based in the town centers that were built upwards towards the sun, so you didn't need a large landmass underneath. And that completely makes sense. We have the technology to do all that stuff. But somehow, some way, even in the world we live today, there are millions of people starving. There are millions of people without real water. Khabib Nurmagomedov, love him, Habib. I keep calling him Khabib. I know the K is silent. Khabib Nurmagomedov talked about how these areas still exist. Well, they exist for a reason. Number one, you don't want populations to become self-stabilizing, because then they get all uppity, don't they? Those populations. And they want, more control over their destiny. And maybe they don't want a ruling class that has such disdain for the rest of us. That's a possibility. I don't know. 143 watching, 54 thumbs up. Let's get those thumbs up, guys. Oh, it's just something I wanted to talk about because, on its face, the idea that children should be deciding kind of policy, getting this kind of media coverage, et cetera, is ridiculous. That doesn't mean that children aren't important. Doesn't mean that children aren't intelligent. Doesn't mean that children aren't the future. But it does mean that when you have an educational system that so heavily relies on the same script they have for 30 plus years, on this idea that human beings are bad, we need to be restricted, and carbon dioxide is going to cause irreversible harm to the entire populations. We're talking end of the world stuff, rising ocean lines, disasters, crazy climate. And here I am, 30 years later, from when I was getting taught at 10 years old, watching specials with Neil Patrick Harris and others, Ted Danson, Whoopi Goldberg. I think you can find it somewhere on Amazon, like a VHS tape of it. I forget what it was. I actually have a downloaded copy of it somewhere. I'm watching that stuff. It's telling me the same thing, but really focusing more on CFCs, right? But we won't even get into CFCs in this video. And my 10-year-old niece is being told the same thing as she's being told. It's bad we got out of those Paris Accords. But as soon as I explained to her, well, if we had stayed in them, then people like myself and your mother would have to pay more money in taxes. Then people like myself and your mother would have to pay more money in taxes. And they don't really have a solution to all this carbon nonsense. And then I explained to her again that we exhale carbon dioxide, and this beautiful park that I come to many times a week with this beautiful dog. Well, this park relies on mine and others' carbon dioxide to live. It's weird, huh? Circle of life. But we're going to tax that nonsense. So here's the deal, guys. I'm doing 3 to 7 videos a day. I did a big Epstein update you should go check out right now if you haven't. And yesterday did a really important video that should get more traction on the fact that in 1989 there was a mass shooting in a print shop. On the fact that in 1989 there was a mass shooting in a print shop. Okay, and this is when adults were doing mass shootings, more than likely because they're the first rung to be medicated by these psychotropic drugs. And this guy had been on Prozac for just a month. There was a lawsuit, and lo and behold, this happened in '94. There was a lawsuit, and lo and behold, this happened in '94. The lawsuit. Lo and behold, the manufacturer of Prozac quietly paid out $20 million to the families of the victims so that they would get a favorable verdict and they would suppress evidence that would have otherwise got them convicted. Big Pharma suppress evidence that would have otherwise got them convicted. Big Pharma, big problem, psychotropics, school shootings, mass shootings. There is a connection. Believe the hype. I go into Connor Betts and others, but you should go check that out as well. Make sure to thumbs this up, share it with others, sub if you're new to the Burmese Brigade, and I will see you guys all. Share it with others, sub if you're new to the Burmese Brigade, and I will see you guys all on the flip side.